Have you ever given your heart to someone only to feel invisible the moment they sensed your value? Here's the hard truth no one talks about. Sometimes the more you bring to the table, the faster some men get up and walk away. But why? It's not because you're too much. It's not because you're not enough. It's because deep down your presence exposes something he hasn't dealt with in himself. A woman who knows her worth. She's not just attractive, she's disruptive. And here's where it gets dangerous. When a man starts to feel insecure, challenged, or out of control, he may respond in one of two ways. He either rises up or retreats. And when he retreats, it looks like distance, silence, hot and cold behavior, and you questioning everything. So if you're stuck wondering, why is he ignoring me when I've done nothing wrong? This video is going to give you the clarity and power you deserve. Not only will you learn why men ignore women they secretly admire, but I'm going to give you the exact words to say that shift the energy, without begging, chasing, or compromising an ounce of your dignity. Because here's the truth. A man's silence should never shrink your self-worth, and your response has the power to either reinforce your value or give it away. Stay with me, because in the next few minutes you'll finally understand the psychology behind his distance and learn exactly what to say to flip the dynamic in your favor. When a man goes silent, most women immediately assume the worst. He's losing interest. He's talking to someone else. He's done. But here's the reality most people miss. Silence doesn't always mean disinterest. In fact, sometimes it means the exact opposite. Men and women are wired differently when it comes to processing emotions. While many women instinctively want to talk things through, connect, and seek reassurance, most men tend to go inward when they feel uncertain, stressed, or emotionally overwhelmed. They retreat, and not always because they don't care, but because they don't know how to process what they feel or fear they might say something wrong. Here's what a lot of women don't realize. Your value can actually trigger a man's insecurity. When a man senses that you are confident, emotionally intelligent, and hard to replace, that awareness can make him feel unsure about whether he's enough for you. His silence might be him measuring his ability to meet your standards. It might be self-protection, not rejection. This is where the miscommunication begins. You assume he's checked out, so you either pull back in hurt or overextend to pull him closer. Both of those responses feed a narrative of instability in the connection, when the truth is he's often just in his head, not out of the relationship. However, let's be clear, not all silence is innocent. Some men use it as a form of emotional manipulation or passive control. They know silence creates anxiety, and they rely on you to fill the gap by chasing them. The key is learning to distinguish between the two. Is his silence reflective and temporary, or is it consistent, dismissive, and designed to make you feel small? This is why you can't react emotionally to every withdrawal. Instead, you must learn to observe his patterns without taking them personally. Respond with calm, grounded clarity, not fear. Because when you understand that silence isn't always about you, you reclaim your emotional power and stop tying your worth to someone else's confusion. Coming up, I'll show you exactly what to say in these moments to both protect your peace and recenter the connection, if it's meant to last. When a man starts ignoring you or pulls away, your emotional response can either protect your dignity or quietly sabotage it. And unfortunately, most women are conditioned to respond in ways that feel instinctive, but are actually counterproductive. Let's talk about what not to do in these moments, because how you handle the silence matters just as much as the silence itself. The first mistake, chasing. This might look like sending multiple texts, asking if he's okay, over-apologizing even when you did nothing wrong, or trying to rekindle his interest by being extra sweet or agreeable. It might come from a place of love or fear, but here's what it communicates. I'm willing to abandon my self-respect to keep your attention. And once you do that, the power dynamic shifts. You stop being the woman he respects and become the woman he assumes will always be available, no matter how he treats you. Second, overanalyzing his behavior instead of observing it. You replay conversations, scan for hidden meanings, and twist yourself into emotional knots, trying to decode his silence. But here's the truth. His behavior is the message. If a man wants to talk to you, he will. If he respects you, he'll clarify, not confuse. The more you try to overthink and solve him, the more energy you give to a situation that may not deserve it. Third, internalizing his silence as a reflection of your worth. This one is the most dangerous. When you start believing that his pullback means you're not enough, you lower your standards without even realizing it. You begin to accept crumbs, rationalize inconsistency, and stay emotionally invested in someone who isn't showing up for you. This is how strong women lose themselves. Slowly, quietly, and often with the best intentions. Fourth, reacting emotionally or trying to force clarity. Sending long emotional messages, demanding answers, or cornering him into a conversation when he's clearly withdrawing can backfire. Yes, you deserve clarity, but trying to force it when he's unavailable only creates more distance. A man will either step up or step away. You don't need to drag him to a decision. Finally, don't try to win him back by proving your value. This looks like trying to impress him with success, physical appearance, or being extra supportive, thinking he'll suddenly see your worth. But your value is not a performance. It's not something to convince someone of. If he can't see it already, trying to sell it only devalues it. So what should you do instead? You pause, you observe, you hold your ground, you let his silence speak, and then respond with calm, firm boundaries if needed. Because a high-value woman doesn't fight for a spot in someone's life. She notices the distance, respects herself enough not to chase, and waits to see if he's worthy of her next move. In the next section, I'll share the exact words you can say. Words that express your value without emotion-driven reaction, and words that will either reawaken his respect or confirm your decision to walk away. So what do you actually say when a man ignores you? You don't beg, you don't plead, you don't try to remind him of your worth. Because if he forgot it, you saying more won't make him remember. But you also don't go silent out of fear or passive aggression. Instead, you speak with calm, grounded confidence. Here's the power phrase that shifts the energy without sounding bitter, desperate, or dramatic. I've noticed some distance lately. That's okay. Everyone moves differently. I just want clarity on where we stand, because I value my time and energy. That's it. Simple, direct, emotionally neutral, but very powerful. Let's break down why this works. First, you're naming the distance without accusation. You're not saying, "Why are you ignoring me?" or "What's wrong with you?" Instead, you're using calm language. "I've noticed some distance." That shows emotional intelligence and awareness, not emotional reactivity. Second, you remove pressure by saying, "That's okay. Everyone moves differently." You're not trying to guilt him or pull him closer. You're showing that you're not afraid of space. That alone makes you stand out, because most people panic when they feel distance. You don't, you remain grounded. Third, and most importantly, you state a boundary without being confrontational. "I just want clarity on where we stand, because I value my time and energy." That line, it's everything. You're not asking for validation. You're asking for clarity, which is reasonable, self-respecting, and mature. You're letting him know that while you're not angry, you also don't entertain confusion for long. You respect your time. You respect your energy. You don't chase uncertainty. What happens when you say this? A man who genuinely values you will lean in. He'll realize you're not playing games, but you're also not tolerating mixed signals. He'll either explain his distance and reconnect, or he'll confirm his disinterest by fading further. And if it's the latter, that's a gift. It saves you from months of emotional limbo. But here's the secret. This phrase isn't really for him. It's for you. It's about standing in your worth without needing anyone to validate it. It's about getting clear on who deserves your presence and who doesn't. And if you're scared to say it, ask yourself this. What's the cost of staying silent? How long will you wait, hoping he figures it out on his own? You don't have to yell to be heard. You don't have to cry to be taken seriously. You can speak softly and still carry power. Your voice is not a threat, it's a filter. The right man won't be scared by your honesty. He'll be relieved by it. Next, we'll talk about how to deliver this message, whether through text or in person. For the most impact, timing and tone matter just as much as the words themselves. Now that you know what to say when a man ignores you, the next crucial step is knowing how to say it, because delivery is everything. The same message can come across as either calm and powerful, or emotionally charged and insecure, depending on how you deliver it. So let's break this down. Text versus in-person. Let's start with text. Because in today's world, most communication happens through screens. Texting can feel safer. It gives you time to think, to word things carefully, and to avoid the intensity of face-to-face reactions. But the downside, text can easily be misread. Tone doesn't always come through, and what was meant to be calm and clear might sound cold or passive-aggressive. That said, if a man has been distant for several days, hasn't returned calls, or has gone MIA with no explanation, a well-crafted message is completely appropriate. The key is to keep it short, non-emotional, and mature. Here's an example. Hey, I've noticed some distance and just wanted clarity. I'm in a place where I value honesty and direction, so if things have shifted, that's totally okay. Just let me know. This works because it's not confrontational, it doesn't blame, and it sets a respectful tone. You're not chasing, you're communicating. Now let's talk about in-person or real-time conversation, whether it's face-to-face or over a call. This method allows for nuance, your tone, body language, eye contact, but it also requires more emotional control. If you're feeling reactive, vulnerable, or unsure, in-person delivery can quickly spiral into over-explaining or pleading for validation. That's what you want to avoid. If you choose to speak in person, do it from a calm, grounded place. No raised voice, no dramatic delivery, just clear, confident communication. You can say something like, "I've been feeling a bit of distance between us, and I wanted to check in. I'm someone who values clarity, and I just want to understand where we are. I'm not upset, I just don't stay in uncertain situations for long." Again, you're expressing your truth without putting pressure on him. You're showing emotional maturity, and most importantly, you're drawing a line, not with anger, but with elegance. Here's the golden rule. You never initiate this conversation when you're emotionally charged. Don't do it right after a triggering moment, late at night, or when you're expecting a certain reaction. Wait until you're grounded and prepared for any response, even silence. Because confidence isn't about getting the answer you want. It's about being okay no matter the outcome. Whether you send a message or say it face to face, the key is this: you are not asking for approval. You are asking for truth. And when you speak from that place, you will either invite alignment or reveal misalignment. Both are a win. Next, we'll explore when his silence becomes more than just a temporary pullback, and how to recognize when it's time to walk away for good. Not all silence is innocent. In fact, sometimes silence isn't just space. It's a red flag waving right in front of you. The key is learning to tell the difference between healthy distance and emotional manipulation. Let's be honest, there's a difference between a man needing time to think and a man using silence to control the situation. When a man consistently ignores your messages, avoids accountability, and disappears without explanation, that's not reflection. That's avoidance. And here's the painful truth. A man who values you doesn't leave you confused. If you constantly feel anxious, uncertain, or like you're walking on eggshells, waiting for him to respond, you're not in a connection, you're in a cycle. A cycle where you're the one reaching, guessing, and giving, while he's withholding just enough to keep you hoping. This is where you have to stop giving benefit of the doubt and start reading the reality. If his silence happens every time there's an emotional need, if he ghosts, then reappears like nothing happened, if he makes you feel guilty for expecting basic communication, if he punishes you with silence instead of discussing issues like an adult, that's not a man who's emotionally unavailable. That's a man who's emotionally immature, or worse, emotionally manipulative. Let me be clear, you should never have to chase someone for clarity. The moment his silence starts to chip away at your self-esteem, the moment it makes you question your worth or your standards, that's the moment to stop explaining it away and start honoring your boundaries. Because silence isn't always neutral. Sometimes it's a weapon. It's used to keep you in a state of emotional confusion, where you're so busy trying to fix it, you don't notice that you're slowly being drained. And here's what often happens. You keep hoping the silence will end with an apology, a deeper connection, a revelation. But it doesn't. Instead, it becomes the pattern. And now, you're stuck investing in potential instead of reality. So what do? You walk away with grace, not to punish him, not to teach him a lesson, but because you've seen enough. Silence can tell you everything you need to know about a man's emotional capacity. If he consistently chooses to avoid, ignore, or ghost rather than communicate, he's not the one. You can't build a relationship with someone who disappears when things get real. You deserve consistency. You deserve emotional safety. You deserve to feel seen, not just when it's convenient, but especially when it's uncomfortable. When a man shows you through silence that he's unwilling to show up, believe him the first time. Because the more you ignore the red flags, the louder the heartbreak becomes later. Walking away isn't weakness, it's wisdom. Coming up, we'll shift the focus fully back to you and explore how to realign with your value, rebuild your energy, and reset the standard for how you expect to be treated. Let's be real. When someone ignores you, it's easy to internalize it. You start questioning yourself. Did I say too much? Was I too available? Too emotional? Not enough of something. But here's the truth. You're not too much. You're just offering your energy to someone operating on a lower frequency. When a man pulls away, the natural reaction is to close the gap, to explain, to fix. But every time you chase clarity from someone who chooses not to give it, you're giving away your power in exchange for crumbs of attention. Now is the time to reset the dynamic, and it starts with owning your value. Owning your value means reminding yourself, not him, of who you are. It's not about proving your worth. It's about standing in it. It's about choosing not to shrink yourself just because someone else can't meet you where you are. Here's what that looks like in action. You stop over-explaining. You stop making excuses for his behavior. You stop showing up for someone who goes silent whenever it's convenient. And most importantly, you stop breaking your own boundaries to keep someone interested. You start shifting the energy back to you. You ask, is this person adding to my peace or disturbing it? Because someone who genuinely values you won't keep you in emotional limbo. And if they do, that's your sign, not your sentence. Sometimes owning your value means choosing to walk away from someone who's almost right for you. Because almost still leaves you empty. You can't control whether a man sees your worth, but you can control whether you continue giving access to someone who doesn't. And here's the shift: when you move from needing someone to validate your value, to embodying it regardless of who stays or goes, everything changes. You stop responding from fear. You start responding from clarity. You stop obsessing over being chosen. You start choosing yourself, consistently, unapologetically. That doesn't make you cold or unapproachable. That makes you magnetic. Because high-value energy doesn't chase. It attracts. It doesn't beg. It invites. It doesn't prove. It embodies. So if you've been feeling overlooked, ignored, or emotionally dismissed, this is your moment to recalibrate. Look in the mirror and say, Solon, I don't need someone to acknowledge my worth for it to exist. I am the standard. That's how you reset the dynamic. Not by forcing someone to rise, but by rising so powerfully yourself that anyone not aligned with your frequency fades away naturally. And the ones who do stay, they'll meet you where you are, without confusion or inconsistency. In the next section, we'll break down real-life examples of how this approach has transformed relationships, and what it actually looks like when a man responds positively to your power. Now let's bring this down to real life, because theory is great, but what actually happens when you put these principles into practice? Let's start with what worked. Example 1. Jasmine had been dating a guy for 3 months. Things were going well. Consistent texts, weekly dates, deep conversations. Then, out of nowhere, he went cold. No explanation, slow replies, cancelled plans. Instead of panicking or chasing, Jasmine paused. She waited a few days, then sent a calm message. I've noticed some space lately. If something shifted, that's totally okay. I just prefer clarity over confusion. No attitude, no blame, just grounded honesty. He replied within the hour, You're right. I've been dealing with some stress and didn't know how to talk about it. I appreciate your maturity. Can we talk tonight? That moment reset the entire dynamic. Why? Because she didn't try to fix it. She let her words reflect her value. He stepped up. Their communication actually got stronger because of that one message. Example 2. Maria had a different outcome, but it was still a win. She had been seeing someone casually, but every time they got close, he'd pull away, then go silent, then come back when it was convenient. This time, instead of waiting, she sent a voice note. I'm in a place where I want real connection, not confusion. I've enjoyed our time, but I don't engage with inconsistency anymore. I wish you well. He never responded. And while that might seem like a failure, it wasn't. It was clarity. Maria didn't lose anything. She gained freedom from someone who was never fully present to begin with. Now let's talk about what didn't work. Example 3. Tasha sent 6 emotional texts in a row after being ignored for 2 days. She asked if she did something wrong, offered to give him space, and even said she missed him. His response? Silence for another week. When he did return, he acted like nothing had happened. No apology, no accountability. Why didn't it work? Because the moment she prioritized his comfort over her own clarity, she sent the message, "I'll tolerate distance as long as you come back eventually." That reinforced the behavior. Example 4. Erin tried the silent treatment back method. She mirrored his withdrawal, thinking he'd chase her. But what really happened? Nothing. Neither of them reached out. Weeks passed. She felt resentful, and he moved on. Why? Because playing games isn't power. Silence for silence just creates more disconnection. If you're high value, you speak clearly and respectfully, and then let actions guide your next move. The truth is, it's not about getting a specific outcome. It's about showing up in a way that honors your value every time. That energy either invites connection or reveals misalignment. And either way, you win. In the final section, we'll tie it all together and talk about what it really means to stay high value, no matter who stays, leaves, or never shows up at all. So let's bring everything together. When a man ignores your value, whether intentionally or because he simply can't recognize it, you are faced with a choice. Not a choice about him, but about you. Do you shrink and question your worth? Or do you rise, hold your ground, and let his silence be the space where your self-respect grows even louder? Being a high-value woman doesn't mean you never feel hurt or confused. It doesn't mean you never second-guess yourself. It means you know how to return to yourself, even when someone else pulls away. You don't chase clarity from people who benefit from your confusion. You don't fight for space in someone's life when they're showing you, in actions, that they aren't protecting that space. And most importantly, you never tie your value to someone else's ability to see it. Staying high value is not about coldness, arrogance, or pretending you don't care. It's about having standards that don't bend just because you feel emotionally attached. It's about allowing someone to walk away if they can't meet those standards, without trying to convince them to stay. You see, a man's silence doesn't define your worth. How you respond to that silence, that's where your power lives. Let him be confused. Let him take space. Let him pull away if that's what he needs. But you stay rooted in clarity. You speak once with grace and firmness, and then you watch what he does next. The right man won't need to be chased. He won't ignore you as a test. He won't leave you questioning where you stand. He will respect your directness and respond with consistency. And if he doesn't, that's not a loss. That's your redirection back to yourself. Because the woman who chooses herself never really loses anyone. She only loses what was never secure to begin with. So let this be your reminder. You are not here to audition for love. You are not here to wait in emotional limbo, hoping someone sees your worth. You are the prize not because of how hard you try, but because of who you already are, without needing to prove anything. When you stay high value, you don't get attached to potential. You get real about patterns. You don't fall in love with words. You watch behavior. And you don't abandon yourself to hold on to someone else. Let silence teach you, but don't let it break you. You've got this. Now take a breath, hold your head high, and move forward knowing you don't chase love, you attract it. And the right man will never be confused about your value. Thank you for watching. If this resonated with you, drop a comment, share your story, and remember to like and subscribe for more high-value wisdom. Because you don't just deserve love, you deserve clarity, consistency, and peace. Always.